Welcome. This is the Powell Bros Movie Reviews, where we review movies, where we talk story, where we dismantle and praise films, and specifically right now we are in our first season, in the second half of our first season, working through all the Marvel superhero movies, and boy, it's been a treat. And we're nearing the end, but we're also getting into a very probably the more Renaissance era of Marvel movies, where we're getting some really good ones, and been enjoying the good ones, and a little bit of the bad ones too. Sometimes, yeah, it's been fun, and it's been fun just being able to think about these movies critically, especially these movies that we watched as a child in our childhood, and now we're watching in our adult life.
Yeah.
So I'm your host, Trent, and I'm here with my co-host, Tobiah. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. This is actually a movie that's been in the news lately. I don't know if you've seen the news of this movie lately. Not blanking. Like major news or anything, but just in the movie business news.
Really? I guess
which
you
is
have to refresh my memory.
Yeah, so this is just a sneak peek into what all of our movie chronicles episodes are like, but
for sure.
Yeah. So
okay, I think I heard.
So this is
something, but
the movie we're reviewing, we should say, is Spider-Man 2. We did not watch Spider-Man 2.1, the extended edition. We stuck with the regular edition, the theatrical edition, I should say, which is just Spider-Man 2. Yeah, so it's just something that's been dumb is that Kirsten Dunst was comparing her salary to Tobey Maguire's, saying there's such a big difference, and that that he was getting paid way more than her in a bad way. She wasn't saying it in a good way. It's in
the gender pay gap.
Yeah. Which is it's called
Spider-Man,
not
about you, Mary Jane.
Not Mary Jane. So
right.
And she wasn't in this movie like a ton, especially compared to Tobey Maguire. She was in like maybe a quarter.
She played a big part in the story, but
for sure. But she was only in like half of it, maybe, or a quarter of it, not even.
Right. Yeah, maybe.
So I don't know where she gets the nerve to say that there was a unfair pay gap.
Context? In what context was she speaking?
I think she was talking to like some reporter or something, or.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm guessing maybe a promotional thing for her new movie.
Civil War.
Maybe came up. I don't know.
Yeah.
That'd be my guess.
Okay.
But yeah, we can go ahead and dive into this movie.
Yep. Spider-Man 2, which is, by most people's standard, it's considered the best Spider-Man movie and one of the best superhero movies of all time. And I understand why, and this is going to be really interesting as we unpack it, because personally I've held it to be my favorite Spider-Man movie. I'd say it's still my favorite Spider-Man movie, but thinking about it critically, I actually had some problems with it, and I was surprised and a little disappointed that I did, because I love this. I've always loved this movie, and I was ready for us to get on here and say, yep, it's flawless, 10 out of 10. Best movie, best superhero movie ever done, ever made. And oh man,
spoiler alert! There's spoiler alert for our fans as we review movies. There's no such thing as a 10 movie, so you'll never see us give a movie a 10. There will always be issues with movies, no matter what. But there's probably a 9.9 out there.
Okay. Okay, I think I agree. I mean, a 10 out of 10, I think, to me would be
as far as stories that have been written, our standard is the Bible. The Bible's a 10, right? The stories in the Bible is 10.
Okay.
So nothing can really reach that.
Sure. Right.
Everything's going to have some sort of flaws because everything's being made by sinful people, and we make mistakes. It just happens.
Yeah, right. But the Bible is also written by sinful people, but inspired by the Lord. And this is maybe a discussion for another time.
Yeah,
because I don't disagree. I don't disagree necessarily, but there's also such thing as natural revelation and God's work in creation and the stories that He tells and He tells through us, and that we're inspired to tell. And like this isn't
I just don't ever see us
great conversation for another time.
I know I've never watched a movie that I was like, wow, that is a perfect movie, no flaws, 10.
I might okay, and
even my favorite movie has flaws.
Sure.
And I would have made it a little different because I mean, they weren't Christians that made it, so I see like their sinful nature in the movie. Okay. I'm like, I would have changed that, and if that was different, then it would have been a 10. But right now, it's sitting at a 9.9.
Okay. There's a lot of cans of worms here that I can open up that I'm not going to.
No, let's not.
Let's go to. We're talking about Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2.
But one thing that I wanted to say is as we started diving into these superhero movies, as we started reviewing movies as a podcast, I think I've gotten to a place that I didn't expect to get to, where it might even kind of lend to what you were saying, is in that there's no perfect movies, because I went into this film thinking, all right, this actually could be our first, 9. It still might be. I haven't decided on a score yet, but I was thinking like, okay, even as a superhero movie, could this actually be a perfect superhero movie? Like, is this a 10 out of 10 as far as superhero movies go? Because on movie scale, I think I would put that down a number. But I went into this with high hopes, and I was actually let down because I had such high hopes for it. And when I looked at it critically, I think I've become very cynical towards movies, especially superhero movies, where it's like, if this is like the best superhero movie ever, like, I don't know if I can actually enjoy watching superhero movies anymore. I think I've ruined myself. Like, as Harry would say, I'm ruined, and all I have is Spider-Man.
Well, and
now again, I'm losing Spider-Man.
Either that's
not
necessarily
well,
a bad
it's
thing
not
either.
a bad thing,
because when we watch movies, we do need to analyze them, and I've
gotten to the point where I'm very nitpicky.
Yeah, I've been listening to Stories Are Soul Food with Andy Wilson, and the whole point of that podcast is about how stories like can be acted as food for our souls, like in a obviously metaphorical way. But so like when we watch something, we need to be knowing like, what kind of food are we eating? Is this a steak or is this some candy?
Right.
And we need to analyze it.
Superhero movies are often candy.
And that's why Andy Wilson doesn't like Marvel.
Right.
So he's But my point is that we do need to be analyzing the movies we watch and think about them critically and tear them apart, see what's good, see what's bad, and
yeah. And sometimes we can go into movies and kind of shut that critical side of our minds off to where we can just sit there and just enjoy a superhero movie. Like, all the fight scenes in this movie, I was like, oh yeah, I love this. This is great. This is the best. I think some of the best action we've gotten in the superhero movies that we've watched. But then when you're analyzing the story and you're thinking about things practically and logically, it's like, oh, okay, there's some issues there. And why did this character make this decision? This doesn't make any sense. Motivations don't fit, don't align, don't make sense, and it's hard to follow. And little things like that, you just start running through your mind, asking questions. And it's like, I've gotten to the point where I don't think I can turn that off. Like, I've tried to turn that off. We've talked about this in the past, but it's like, I can't anymore. So like, that's why I'd say like I'm ruined because I can't enjoy films like I used to. But it's good. It's a good tool. It's a good habit to get into. It's something that you need to train yourself to get better at and to learn. So you're not just consuming things passively, but you're actually thinking through what you're consuming objectively and not thinking about it subjectively, where it's like, oh well, I love Spider-Man, so I'm gonna enjoy this movie no matter what. It's like, okay, well, I do like Spider-Man. Spider-Man's probably has always been my favorite superhero. It's like, okay, and this has always been one of my favorite superhero movies, but it's like, that doesn't mean that it doesn't have problems. It doesn't mean it's flawless. I was actually thinking it might be flawless going into it. It's like, well, no, this is definitely not flawless. And by the end, I was like, oh man, I'm ruined. But it's okay. But it's good. It's good.
Yeah. Well, definitely if you're like the leader of your household, the man of the house, and you guys watch movies all the time, like, are you if you have your mind shut off and you're
Hmm.
just letting whatever come through and enter into your wife's mind or your kids' minds, that's
Yep.
very dangerous, and that's something that you shouldn't be allowing to happen. You need to be digging into it and teaching your kids to analyze it, not just take it for what it is, and
Yeah.
to really know what your family is consuming. But
Definitely.
we can end this discussion and let's get into this
Into
review.
those movies. Let's talk about the movie.
Yes. All right. So
All right.
story right off
Well,
the
I guess
bat, kind of what were you?
what were your initial thoughts like finishing the movie? What'd you?
I definitely see this movie way different than I ever have before. It definitely
Yeah,
wasn't never. It was definitely never my favorite movie, nor my favorite Spider-Man movie.
really. What's your
It
favorite Spider-Man movie?
well, I don't know anymore.
Okay. Okay.
With my mind shut off, probably Amazing Spider-Man 2 or the first Spider-Man. The
Okay.
first Spider-Man will probably end up being my favorite, but we'll see.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, I definitely see it in a different light than I did before. There were things that I noticed this time that I liked that I'd never noticed before, but then also the bad stuff just stuck out like a sore thumb this time.
Hmm.
Even some stuff I didn't even notice ever any of the other times I've watched it. So
Yeah.
there's just a lot of different things that I just never noticed before, and
Hmm.
yeah, it's definitely not perfect like you were saying, but there's definitely some good things, and I want to get into that. And yeah, we can go ahead and get into
Hmm.
the story. I mean, or did you want to
Yep.
say like how'd you feel?
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, similar. Like
Yeah,
and going off of what I've already said, I think I had some issues with a lot of some of the characters' motivations. There's a certain character I did not like, and
say it.
the
Who did you
like,
not like?
well, Mary Jane.
Yeah.
Mary Jane, she was really annoying.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't stand her
Oh
in
my
this.
gosh. I can't stand her in any of the movies.
She was okay in the first one for me, and the third one is different because like Peter's a complete jerk, and so she reacts kind of reasonably to him being a complete jerk, and like I'm trying to reconcile comic book accuracy and thinking through, okay, like what is Mary Jane's character like in the comics? It's like, okay, I see why she says some of the things she says and does some of the things she does because she's actually trying to be like Mary Jane from the comics. I don't think it comes off as well as it does in the comics, and I think just personalities are completely different than what kind of within the character that was originally written. However, like though comic book accuracy is a part of this, that's not everything we're judging this on. Even though this is like an adaptation in some senses, but
Hmm.
anyways,
For
I
sure.
had issues with her. Doc Ock, I think, is an awesome villain. I just had some issues with some of the motivations and the whole he's being mind controlled throughout the film, and we don't really know if there's actually a struggle that he's having with like, am I doing the right thing or am I not? When it's just like, okay, well, he's being mind controlled, and he kind of is awakened at the end, and Spider-Man helps him
Okay, yeah. So I want
overcome
to kind of
that.
get
And I
into
know that's getting way into the third act, and but
yeah.
anyways, go ahead,
No, yeah. I have something to say about all that too. And it kind of
go
plays
for it.
into the same thing with kind of the same thing we came to the conclusion on with The Punisher is that this movie isn't really about the villain. Sure, the villain's in it. I mean, the villain's the antagonist,
Hmm.
but there's also that battle he has within himself, and that's what he's fighting this whole movie. Because we
Hmm.
don't even get the villain till way later, and but we already know what Peter Parker's struggling with, and we get that right off the bat. Like very
Yeah,
first scene, we
yeah.
see that he's struggling to keep his personal life and his superhero life separate
Hmm.
and make them both work, and he just can't. Like he's just, his personal life is just falling apart. He can't manage to keep a job. He can't manage to keep his
Hmm.
girlfriend. Well, I mean, she was never his girlfriend, but he can't.
Yeah,
He just
the girl he
can't
loves.
keep up with anything in his personal life, and
Well,
so we
she
see
loves
that right
him,
off the bat. Yeah,
right? She still has feelings for him, but he's pushing her away,
yeah.
and
So
she's
this movie
trying
is
to find his way.
definitely more of a personal growth, character growth film
Yes.
more than a hero fighting a villain. Because even when he's trying to get his personal life and his superhero life together, figuring that out, which one do I choose? The villain is the antagonist, and he's in different ways stopping him from being able to make that choice, and he's interfering with his life, and all these things are happening. And so, like, while he's kind of forced to make a decision, or more or less, I don't know, his body, something makes a decision for him, his mind makes a decision for him, and he loses his powers. And even then, the antagonist stops him from being able to do that when he throws the car at him. And I mean, that's later. That's like the third act almost, or like beginning of the third act. But still, like, throughout the whole movie, he's dealing with this struggle, and the antagonist is stopping him. So it is mostly a self-growth film rather than a hero villain.
Even introducing Harry's conflict and him as kind of an antagonist as well, that also helps kind of us as the audience work through the struggle of Peter being Spider-Man, because once he does become Spider-Man again, he gets captured by Doc Ock, taken to Harry, and then Harry takes off the mask and sees, oh, it's Peter, and it's like, Peter is Spider-Man, and he's already accepted and embraced that. And so that's helping us understand this character, and Harry's realizing, oh, this person I've been hating and going after and trying to capture is actually my best friend. And then he obviously is conflicted in that moment because he chooses not to kill him. But then later we have that tease at the end, of course, where he is going to become the Goblin. But anyways, like, even that, he was another antagonist that was driving the story, and Doc Ock was even like, or Harry was using him, and it wasn't even Doc Ock that was like, oh, I'm going to go after Peter Parker. It's like, well, no, Harry made a deal with him and so forth. So you have another antagonist, and I think, but he's an antagonist that is helping the protagonist move the story forward, and his story so forward and so forth. So that's just another example.
Yeah.
So story, Peter at the beginning of the film he's struggling with how like, I'm Spider-Man, okay, but how do I be Spider-Man but also have a normal life? He's out of high school, he's trying to get a job or keep a job, he's trying to get a girl, he's trying to succeed in school, trying all these things, but he's also trying to be a superhero and save lives, and he knows, like, with great power is great responsibility. I have this great power, and so I need to take responsibility. I need to use this power to save others. There's crime rampant throughout the city, and and people are in danger. There's children that need to be saved. There's apartments on fire. There's cats that need getting saved from the trees. There's all these things that require someone with superhuman abilities, and he has superhuman abilities. And so he's working through, okay, how do I live this life that I want to live, but also take responsibility? Because that's what he learned at the end of the first film. He gave up Mary Jane. He said, I can't be with you because I'm called to something higher. I'm called to take responsibility for what I have been given, and to use my powers for good and to save others. But doing that is going to put others in danger, those that are close to me in danger, so I have to push you away. So he learned that, and now he's like, okay, now the question that we're asking is, okay, what does it look like for him to live that life? It's like, oh, well, it's hard. It sucks. He can't be both. At least that's what we're seeing from the beginning. And as he loses his job, he is failing his class with Dr. Connors. He misses Mary Jane's play, even though he promised her that he'd be there. All these things are just going wrong for him, one after another, all because he chooses to be Spider-Man, all because he's doing what he is supposed to be doing, is he takes responsibility. But he has that struggle, and then he starts losing his powers, and he starts not being able to swing his webs. He's not able to be the hero now. All of a sudden, whatever's going on in his mind. Which I guess I don't know how did you interpret that or understand that? Like, why is it that he's no longer, or he's every once in a while he's able to use his powers, but he's not. They're being weakened, I guess.
I didn't see like a very well explanation of why that was happening.
Right.
It was like, I mean, I guess like a part of his mind was like just saying like it was done because he was fighting this battle so hard in his head, and he couldn't make a decision.
Because what did he want more? He wanted to have a normal life.
Yeah, he wanted to be Peter Parker more.
Yeah,
and so just a part of his mind just was working towards that, I guess. And
I think so.
And I guess it was like kind of like belief and faith and stuff like that of what he what he wants most. And I think a big moment was when in his head he was having a conversation with Uncle Ben, the same conversation he was having in the first movie, except in this one, Uncle Ben was essentially saying, with great power comes great responsibility, and he says, I don't care, like I want a life.
He says, I am Spider-Man no more.
Yeah.
And so that was a pretty memorable scene. Obviously, it's just he was replaying in his mind, but that was memorable. And then when he leaves his Spider-Man suit in the trash and walks away. Was it raining during that scene?
No.
Okay, never mind. I was thinking it was, but anyways, yeah, and that was pretty memorable. And that's where we see the big shift where now he's able to live a normal life. He's able to. I don't know. Does he get a job? I don't think he gets a job, but he's succeeding. His grade. He's getting good grades in school. He's able to go to Mary Jane's play and start trying to rekindle that relationship, even though she's reluctant and she kind of pushes him away. Which also was kind of impactful for him. He's saying he's trying to reconcile. It's like, okay, I've changed for you. And, he tells her that, like, I'm a better person. I'm doing the right thing. I've changed. I'm new. I'm reborn. And she obviously struggles with whether or not she believes him. And then when they're in the diner later on, that's kind of reversed, where after he's accepted, well, jumping ahead, of course, but after he's accepted that he needs to be the hero, he's like, well, no, I actually can't be Peter Parker. I can't be with you, Mary Jane. And so it goes back to where we started at the end of the first film, but further develops his character beyond that. And yeah, I don't know, anything in there?
No, not really. Yeah, everything you're saying makes sense, and yeah,
because I'm trying to think of a couple other. I think there's a lot of very memorable scenes in this film that, of course, I remembered, growing up and watching this, but just the scenes that stand out. Anyways,
I mean,
Go ahead.
I was gonna just say, like, we could move into like the next section of the movie when he, like, what makes him change his mind, and like what leads him to change his mind.
Right, because that is what we see next. Like, he's everything's going great for him, sort of. And then you have that scene.
There's one scene. So, like, when it was towards the beginning of that section of when he was, when he'd given up his powers, he saw those I think it's like some police cars, maybe an ambulance or fire truck or something driving by, and he just looks at them drive by, and then he just eats his hot dog and goes on his merry way. He suppressed any emotions of, I have a responsibility to save these people. He just completely ignored it. And it's a pretty dark moment, honestly. Like, it just showed like he literally doesn't care anymore, and he's happy just living his life as Peter Parker and living that selfish life. But then later, when we get to that scene with the building that's on fire, that's where we see.
Well, even before that, the scene where that kid is getting mugged in the in the
Oh
alley.
yeah.
So he's getting
That scene
mugged, and
too.
you can say whether or not he actually should have just tried to do something about it instead of walk away. Like, even if he wasn't
Yeah,
Spider-Man, it's
even as Peter. Yeah.
like you should probably step in and do something. But it was a scene that was meant to tell us something, because you see it on his face where he's like, you see that conflict. And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
know I need to take responsibility. I know I need to save this kid, but I'm not going to. Or I'm weak. I'm weak, little Peter now. Like, I can't.
Yeah, it's like
I can't
he thought
do
I
it.
can't do it. Yeah.
I can't do it. Yeah. And then that further develops when that scene with the burning building,
Yeah.
where he. Well, I'm sorry. So what? Because what happened even before that? Because I think there was a couple other things that. Oh, wait. Was the scene with Aunt May and that boy? What? Yeah, that boy, when she was selling her
Yeah.
house. Was that before or after
I
the?
think so. I think it was before. No, it might have been
No, it was
after.
after.
It was after because he
It was
hadn't made,
after.
even with the burning building, he hadn't made any decisions yet of like
Right.
I'm gonna turn away from this
Right.
because
Well, he
yeah.
decides to
Go
go
ahead.
into the building, to save this little girl, and he does. He's able to, and so he kind of has that, like, spark of kind of hope, or, like, realization, like, it maybe, or like or at least continued conflict as to whether or not he should continue, as Peter, or go back to being Spider-Man. And what really just kind of hit him really hard was the fact that there was someone else in that building that didn't make it. And there
Mm-hmm.
was someone on the fourth floor that that passed away. And so you see it on his face, it's like, oh, it's like, I thought I was being a hero, but it's like, as Peter, but it's like, no, I
Yeah,
I,
because
I can't.
and right after that, he has an internal dialogue where he questions like, "Can I be Peter Parker,
Hmm.
or is Spider Man always going to be a part of my life? Like, can I have
Yeah.
what I want?" I think he asks that, like, "Can I have what I want?"
Hmm.
And because he is faced with that moral dilemma of, man, if I was Spider Man, I could have saved both of them. Like, I would have had that ability,
Hmm.
and since I gave that up, I essentially let someone die, and that, or
Hmm.
in his head, that's what he's thinking, and he's struggling with that. And then and then I think the next scene, or a couple scenes later, is when he talks with Aunt May. And yeah, do you want to unpack that scene?
Oh, sure. He's helping. He finds out that Aunt May. Well, no, they're being foreclosed. She's not able to pay her
Mm-hmm.
mortgage anymore, and so she just kind of bites the bullet and says, "All right, I'll just start moving." So she's packing all her boxes, and Peter goes to see her, and they have that conversation. Oh, right, duh, we missed the whole scene with Aunt May and Peter sitting at her dinner table,
Mm-hmm.
and they're talking about what happened with Ben. So as we're continuing to see that conflict, I'm assuming that was after the yep, it was right, it was literally right after the burning building. So he sits down with Aunt May, and he opens up to her for the first time about what really happened to Ben Parker, to his
Mm-hmm.
uncle, basically saying that I lied, I didn't go to the library, even though I could have just taken the subway. Uncle Ben decided to drive me, and I'm the reason that he ended up getting killed, because I let the guy that killed him go, when I won the money but wasn't given the money, and so forth. And so he's taking that blame and that responsibility for what happened. And similar to the first movie, it's like, what happened to Ben Parker is so pivotal in his life that he's even learning those lessons again, but in a greater way and a more deeper way, in this film, realizing, all right, I am responsible for what happened. I need to take responsibility, and he's now further working through in his mind, like, am I supposed to be Spider-Man, and do I need to give up this selfish life that I'm living, because that's what got Ben killed. He remember, he used his power. He has these new powers, and he uses them irresponsibly to win some money, buy a car, get the girl, and his selfishness and his pride and his drive towards his selfish desires is what got Ben killed. And now he's seeing that happen again, but in a more impactful way, because he's already grown as a character and he's learned his lessons before. Now he's having to kind of relearn his lessons, but by realizing that, right, his actions affect more than just himself and those close to him. It's everyone else around him, because he is a hero and he's been given these great powers, and so he needs to be responsible for the power, for what he's been given. And so he's having the conversation with her, and she is like kind of distraught, and she walks away, locks herself in the room, and we see them together when she's boxing up all her stuff, and he goes and talks to her, and she basically says like, hey, I love you, Peter. It took a lot of guts for you to really spill out everything that happened and be honest with me, to tell me the truth, and I commend you for that, and we don't need to bring it up again. We need to just let the past go. Let's move on. And that's a lot of what this movie, in a sense, is about, is moving forward, moving on, for Aunt May and for Peter, and learning that, like, he cannot be who he was before. He needs to be reborn. He needs to be a new person, new character. He needs to be a new self, a new version of himself, I guess.
Yeah, he really can't. Like, the question he always asks is, like, he's asking himself is, can I be Peter Parker or can I be both? And the answer is no in the end, but he's struggling with that the whole time, and he sees like that, and later on, I mean, we'll get into it, but he sees his own selfish desires as they're affecting the people around him.
And then that kid that was helping Aunt May pack up, and Aunt May was only going to pay him $5. Cheapskate. Wait, actually, I feel bad now because she's kind of broke and her house is being foreclosed.
Oh, yeah.
Never mind. I guess $5 is fair. Okay. And it's like early 2000s, so it's like $20.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was dumb. She, and this kid's, talking to Peter about and asking like, hey, like, Spider-Man, you take pictures for him. It's like, where is he? Is he coming back? And I think Peter says, like, I don't know if he's going to come back. I don't know if he'll ever come back. And then Aunt May having that conversation. Well, this was the kind of the most pivotal actually scene in the movie. Aunt May telling Peter, and this is, I think this is a typical Aunt May, even in for the most part in the comics, but she's a character, she's a mentor, she's a mother character figure for him, and she's giving him wisdom that he needs, and so she's talking to him, even though she doesn't know he's Spider-Man. She's telling him something that him as Spider-Man needs to hear, and she's talking about how there's a hero in every one of us. I'm blanking on exactly what she says, but just talking about how there's a hero in every one of us, and we just need to learn when it's our time to be a hero in our own right, and to step up and take responsibility, and to be brave when we don't want to, and do the right thing when we would rather do the wrong thing or do the selfish thing. I mean, I can't remember what she says, but it was impactful, and I actually appreciated what she said, and I wish I remembered, but that's okay. I should have written it down. And anyways, I think that was probably the moment that finally changed him, right? Was there anything after that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so, because then he...
oh, well, okay, so
right
next
after
scene
that
is in the diner.
Yeah, that was the next scene, yeah.
Yep, next scene.
And well, so he's already thinking like, I'm gonna become Spider-Man, but then he meets up with MJ because I think she wanted to meet with him, or they had a date set up or something, and
because she wanted to kiss him.
Yeah, she wanted to kiss him,
her boyfriend or her fiance,
and she wanted to be with him, and then he's like, shoot, well, I'm thinking about being Spider-Man again, so I don't think this is gonna work out.
Yeah.
That's essentially what he says, and
she's like ready to tell him, like,
she's
hey, like I want to be with you.
Yeah, and he stops her, says, no, I can't do that, and she's just like, what? And
because she's conflicted. She's working through, like, okay, Peter has been a kind of irresponsible. He's lied to me. He's hurt me. He's kind of put me on a roller coaster of, like, like, okay, you're in love with me, but you're not willing to be with me at the end of the first film. And then now it's like, okay, you say you care about me, but you're not even willing to go to one show when, Harry's gone to one, Aunt May's gone to one, her fiance has been to all of them, and so forth. And so she's conflicted and trying to understand. She even goes to him and says, like, I've been running these things through my head. Like, I'm kind of, I don't know what to think. I don't know I don't know what I'm doing. So she's struggling with that conflict as well. But then Peter says, well, I was wrong. Like, I shouldn't have told you that I wanted to be with you, or that I've changed, or that I can be there for you, because he says I can't be there for you, and that's because he's Spider-Man, and he's starting to go down that path again. Because we also have the scene where he's on the roof, and he goes to jump off to see if he can shoot his webs.
Yeah, that was like in between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have that scene as well.
That's just him, testing it out. But then so the scene with the diner is when Doc Ock famously throws the car at them, and he immediately, his spider senses kick in. So this is the first time we've seen any of his powers come back. Yeah. Because he totally failed when he jumped off the building and hurt his back, that he finally gets fixed in No Way Home.
Oh, yeah. Oh, No Way. Oh, my gosh. This movie actually made me hate No Way Home even more. Actually, I don't know if we've talked about this. I don't like No Way Home. I don't know. I
know. If we ever get to that movie, we'll tear it apart.
But Doc Ock concluded, like, how this movie ended. It's like, it doesn't make any sense that they would bring him back into No Way Home, and then send him back to do what? To die again? Like, I don't understand.
I know.
Like, what did Tom's Peter actually do? Doesn't make any sense to me. Anyways, sorry.
For sure. No, you're good.
Spoiler alert for all you No Way Home fans. We don't like No Way Home.
Yeah.
We love the fact that Peter and Andrew came back, or that Toby and Andrew came back, but we have issues with the plot. They dangled some keys in front of you and said, "Oh, look at here's 3 Spider-Men," but
no, they said here's some really delicious candy,
and here's all
really delicious candy.
Here's all the villains that you love.
Ignore all the chemicals inside of it. Here's some delicious.
But we forgot how to write a story.
They taste good. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, we're just like basically telling the story of the movie right now, but
well, like, okay, in that
recapping
scene,
the whole movie. But let's.
Yeah.
So in this scene, this is a very.
First off,
what's up?
Can someone please explain to me why in the world Doc Ock threw a car at Peter Parker? Like, he was supposed to get him to ask him where Spider-Man is. You throw a car at him, he would have died if he wasn't Spider-Man. What were you thinking? It doesn't make any sense to me. I watched that scene and I was like, what in the world? Like, I get it. It's cool. He got his spider senses. And, like, this is an issue that I think I'm having with these superhero movies, is that they're trying to tell a story for give the character an arc. They put him through these scenarios, but they don't think through those scenarios logically enough for them to make sense. Like, yes, we need to know that Peter has his spider senses back. Yeah. But having Doc Ock throw a car at a random bystander, a random person, it's Peter Parker. He's just a random guy. He's a kid. He's not he doesn't have special abilities. He's not going to be able to sense that the car is being thrown at him, or be able to jump out of the way or anything. why would you throw a card? And like I said, I get from the story standpoint, we're the script writer is telling us Peter has some of his powers back, and he has accepted the fact that he needs to be Spider-Man. He's going to take responsibility, and then he's able to save Mary Jane. But for us to get to that point doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So what's interesting also is that this is one of the first times we've really seen Spider-Man and Doc Ock together, or Peter Parker.
I mean,
other than when he first turned into Doc Ock.
You mean like as Doc Ock?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like this is because that's why I was saying like he's not really
the Bane.
He's not.
He's yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was just a clever way, I guess, of them. Clever, air quotes, of them having another scene with him and Doc Ock. But that's why I was saying, like, Doc Ock is he's barely even a villain in this movie. He's more of just an antagonist. Like,
yeah,
there's just certain things he's doing, like, because he's trying to get this sun built or whatever, so that he can have power. And him doing that has just interfered with Peter Parker a few times. But this is like the first moment where like we actually see like them together and in an impactful way at all for the story.
And then he throws him up against a brick wall. Yeah. He would have died. Okay, if it was a normal person, like he would have died. Yeah. He would have he cracked his head open or broken his back, or he would have died. Okay. Anyways, it's dumb.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then so then he literally throws a thing on him and he would have died, but he jumps through it. He jumps through the brick that's on top of him, and apparently he has his powers and he's not dead.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, no. I didn't even catch that. That is the dumbest thing ever.
And it's what it is. Like, and that's what I'm thinking. What I'm realizing as I'm thinking about superhero movies is that there's a lot of nitpicky things that you can point out. I mean, I guess that's not even a nitpick. That's like a complete like plot hole. It just doesn't make any sense.
For sure.
But anyways. Yeah. But you have to really be thinking about it in order to really catch it, because I never caught that before.
Right.
You know, it's only because I'm thinking about it critically and I actually like thinking about this logically and trying to understand the character's motivations and the villain's motivations and what he's doing, why he's doing it. And I didn't understand why he was doing what he was doing. I think there's one more decision that he made along those lines during that time. It was like, why? That doesn't make any sense. But anyways,
there's a decision at the end of the movie that we'll talk about that was the dumbest thing. But we'll wait for that.
Okay.
Because that's the end of the movie.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. So that's pretty much led up to the third act. Is there really anything else in those two sections that you really thought of?
No, I'd say
any criticisms or.
I don't have a whole lot of criticisms for the first two acts of the film.
Yeah.
There are a few things here and there. Like, I liked introduction of Dr. Octavius before he became Doc Ock as the villain. Like, and then his relationship with Peter and him, you know, kind of criticizing Peter for being lazy and not being responsible. Like, that was helpful for his character. And then when his everything fell apart, when he, you know, he uses his Doc Ock arms, and then he's, you know, doing his experiment, and it goes wrong, and everything, you know, explodes or whatever, and then his wife dies. After that, like, I thought that was really well done, because it was like, okay, this good stand up guy just lost everything, and so the question is, okay, what's he gonna do about it? Is he going to be able to overcome this grief, or is he going to become a villain? And he becomes a villain, but then like I also have questions of like whether or not it was just him being controlled, and like I just didn't see the conflict there. And that's like, I know what you said, like it isn't necessarily about the villain,
because he's hardly in it. Like Doc Ock is really hardly in this movie.
Sure, yeah.
As a villain, like he talks with Harry a few times, just because he's trying to get, you know, the plutonium or whatever, and you know, Harry is the one that funded his thing the first time. Like, Doc Ock's only mission in this movie is to rebuild his thing. It has nothing to do with Spider-Man. The only reason
Uh-huh.
he goes after Peter Parker is because Harry wants him, and he said he'll give him the
Right.
plutonium if he brings him, right? I think that's what it
Yeah.
was.
Well, if he brings Spider-Man,
Yeah. If he brings
so
Spider-Man, and
because
Peter Parker knows where Spider-Man is, so
that's a
that's
good
the
point.
only
Because
reason he goes
yeah,
after him. Like, he's not
right.
trying to kill him. He's just like in the way, and this would have to
Oh
do
yeah,
to get
I
to
didn't realize that.
my goal. So there really is never any conflict between the two except in the
Except for
very end.
when Spider-Man steps in, like at the bank,
Right.
he's trying to rob the bank for his own goals, and then Spider-Man comes in. So the only
Right.
time, but he's never actively going after Spider-Man for his
Right.
own
Exactly.
malicious intent, which is, I guess, fine. I have and then I have questions about even that motivation of like wanting to rebuild his thing. It's like, okay, what's your goal here once you do rebuild it, and why do you want? He says like, I want more of the I can't remember what it's called, when it's like the even a little bit didn't work. Why do you want a whole bunch? It's like it's obviously going to explode. And but is it just your tentacles telling you that, and why? I didn't really
Yeah.
I didn't really get it or
Yeah.
understand what exactly was going on. And this gets in the third act, of course. But
For sure.
but like going back, what I said, it was really impactful. I think when he lost his wife, he lost his reputation, everything that he's worked for. This is something that he's given his life's work towards, to find this renewable energy or whatever, or this new source of energy, and it blows up and everything goes wrong. And it's like, okay, that's a good start for a villain. And then from that, it's like, okay, well, we kind of course corrected a little bit, and we're like, okay, no, this is actually a story about Peter and Spider-Man. That's good. And I think it was fine for the most part, but like we didn't get as enough of Doc Ock that I really wanted personally, as I think a Spider-Man fan, but also just as like I want a good villain, and I want a
Mm-hmm.
story that's about a villain. Yes, I think the last two movies, and this is like three in a row, I guess now, where it's like, is it really? Yeah, because we watched
Yeah.
Hulk, Punisher, and this like three in a row where like the villain's actually not a big focus of the story, and
Yeah.
he's just kind of there to move the character along, and whatnot. It's like, okay, that's interesting, and like I've enjoyed these kind of character driven focused stories, and
Yeah, no.
we
Well, yeah, with this movie, what I was thinking is like it wouldn't be that much different without Doc Ock in it.
sure
Like
it wouldn't.
the story that they were going for is still
Oh
there.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, because that's what was really interesting. And I realized when Peter chose to become Spider-Man, when he was on the roof and he's gonna jump off, and like he was like, I'm ready to be Spider-Man. It had nothing to do with Doc Ock. It had nothing to do
mm-hmm.
with the villain. It was just him. It wasn't like Doc Ock was ravaging the city, or a taken Mary Jane at that point, or something where he's like, oh, I need to be a hero again. It's like, no,
Yeah.
he's dealing with that own internal conflict. It had nothing to do with Doc Ock, and I thought that was
Yeah.
really interesting. And I didn't know how I felt about that, and whether or not like that was well
Yeah.
done,
And like I said,
or
like I
not. It's
said,
like,
Doc Ock isn't a part of like Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and Doc Ock are not connected at all until
right.
Doc Ock needs to get Spider-Man to get the plutonium.
Which is so different from
Yeah.
the first Spider-Man
Yeah.
with Green Goblin and Spider-Man, because they did a good job at showing these characters are aligned and they're going on similar journeys in a sense, but Green Goblin chooses to be the villain, and Spider-Man take responsibility as a hero and so forth. I think that was well done, and probably better done in a sense
Yeah.
than this one. But if we're thinking of like, okay, hero villain, yeah, this was an interesting one.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So I don't know, third act. We're getting close to. We're running out of time.
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah. Oh yeah.
let's go ahead.
Yeah, we can just dive right into the third act.
Yeah.
So
When would you say the third act started?
third act started after the train fight.
Train. Okay. Yeah. I guess.
Or like maybe right before the train fight.
But wouldn't it be when Mary Jane got taken?
Yeah, I guess so.
I get, because like, so the diner scene, the train, because the train, like, it has like a climax, that story, and but then Spider-Man gets taken. The train scene, because how I had thought about it or remembered, I thought it was more closely related to when he chose to become Spider-Man, and I thought that would have been a little more impactful. It's like as I'm thinking about how I'm telling the story, I would have had like I don't even know
Well,
how they do
didn't
this.
it? Because wasn't it the diner scene? When did he take? When did he
Well,
take Aunt?
when she what?
Oh wait. Oh, is that all the? Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong scene.
So the diner happens. He goes gets his suit from J. Jonah Jameson, and then he goes after Doc Ock, and they meet on the train. Which
Oh,
also,
okay, yeah.
so I don't know, and I'm not even sure how I would do this, but I feel like it would have been more impactful because you that scene once again one of the most memorable scenes not only in this movie but in any Spider-Man movie and probably any superhero movie. But it wasn't as impactful as I at least remember it or as I'd hoped it would be.
Mm-hmm.
Because and maybe not, I don't know, like because he's already decided to become Spider-Man, and I felt like that would have been a good scene to help him kind of push him over the edge and finally decide, all right, I need to be Spider-Man, because he's conflicted. Like there's a reason why he doesn't have his mask on for most of that scene. Like from a story like writer standpoint, they're trying to show you like he's and maybe I'm correcting myself. I think they're trying to showing that he's reconciled both, where he's finally figured out who he is. And it's like he can't be the selfish Peter who does whatever he wants, but he is still Peter. But he's Spider-Man, and he's Peter who has these powers and has been given this responsibility to be Spider-Man, but he's still Peter. And so the reason why he has his mask off in that scene, as a writer, from a writing standpoint, it's like this because he's reconciled to both. Like this is who he is.
Yeah.
And so I just wish that maybe that scene was a little bit earlier in the like 2 scenes before, and I don't even know how I would work that in. But because it's like he's already decided to, and the only reason that he's now is Spider-Man because Mary Jane got taken, the reason that he got his suit back and everything, he's going after Doc Ock. So I don't know. I'm just maybe that's nitpicking. I'd have to think about that a little more, but it was still an impactful scene. Like it was him having to, give everything that he had in order to save this train of people, and he's finally like, this is who he is. He's Spider-Man, and that's was the final answer, and he has his powers back.
And then that leads into the third act. When he's finally decided that he is Spider-Man,
right?
And that's when Doc Ock is he's getting his thing started. He took Mary Jane. Which, why did he take Mary Jane? It didn't make any sense to me. Unless I missed it. Because he even said like a dumb line, like
it kind of makes
of why he wouldn't let her go. He's like, I don't need you anymore, but I want you here anyway, or something like that. Like, I want you to see this.
No, she said to him, like, why do you still have me here? You got what you wanted.
Yeah, and then he's like, because you could go call the cops or something.
Yeah,
but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because they can't stop me anyway. I'm like,
right.
So then why don't you let her go?
Well, yeah, because I think he initially took her and so that Peter would go find Spider-Man. He would actually
found out that it was Peter at that point, right? Oh, no, he didn't.
No. He found out on the train.
No, he doesn't find out till the very end.
The very end, yeah. But he saw, so this Peter who I'm supposed to, manipulate to get Spider-Man, like it makes sense that he took Mary Jane because he knows that he has to. But what didn't make sense to me is why he left him with the train. Like why cause that whole like scene, removing the brakes. It's like, okay, so do you think like what's I don't understand Doc Ock's reason for doing that and his motivation as far as to get Spider-Man to go with him or to capture Spider-Man. It's like, why don't you just keep fighting and try to capture him, unless he's like assumes that he's going to wear him down so he's able to capture him, but there's no reason to believe that he would have got worn down, or if anything the train would have crashed. Like that's the most reasonable conclusion, is the train crashes and Spider-Man probably dies, or at least lets those people die, but then he would just have to keep fighting Doc. It just didn't make any sense. But anyways, third act, final fight. What was
Yeah.
the decision that you said was made that you thought was
Oh no,
ridiculous?
we're very end, very last decision.
Oh,
So that'll be
okay.
very end.
Sure. Okay. Uh,
But would you want to just kind of get into Dark Knight of the Soul and
sure.
work through that? Because we still got quite a bit to talk about, so we can
Yeah.
just kind of
So final fight,
finish up the
cool
story,
fight.
and then talk
Yeah.
about what we don't like,
Oh, well,
technically or
okay.
otherwise, And so Dark Knight of the Soul, I would say, was when Doc Ock was holding Peter by the neck next to the sun.
Yeah.
Like the sun was like out of control, and Doc Ock had been knocked down, but his tentacles were still working. So it's like the tentacles that were defeating Spider-Man, because he had Spider-Man.
Spider-Man electrocuted him by.
Oh yeah. So the
doing
tentacles
whatever- I
had him
can't
by the
remember,
neck and could have killed him right then. And he takes his mask off, says, "It's me." I don't think it's actually in that order, but
No,
anyway.
it's not. But yeah, you're right. But
Yeah, so he's got him by the neck, and Doc Ock, as Peter explains, like, look at what you're doing. Like, you're going to destroy the city. You're going to kill so many people. This isn't you. You're a good guy. And he looks around and finally realizes, oh, you're right. And I thought it was a good moment as with Spider-Man, and because it showed that, like, he had come, full circle, and he is Spider-Man again, and he does have a deep care for these people, and he doesn't want anybody to die, and he doesn't even want Doc Ock to die, and so he works him through that, and he finally realizes, but then Doc Ock is willing to sacrifice himself and destroy the machine because he has to drown it.
Realizes who he is and realizes that he's not the villain, and so he kind of has a similar arc in some sense to Peter, and that there's a conflict there as far as, is he Doc Ock or is he Octavius? Is he a good guy or this villain, this persona of a villain, or and like I said, I wish there was a little bit more for us to believe that there was actually a conflict that he was having, or because like it seems like he was just mind controlled the whole time.
Right.
It's
it would have been a good correlation between the two characters, similar to the first movie where there was a very good contrast between the two. It would have been interesting. But yeah, no, we didn't see that really at all. Like, I guess we kind of knew it was happening, but we never saw like Doc Ock actually, or the character Otto Octavius actually fighting the villain of the tentacles or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, we never actually saw any real fight between those.
Right.
And I kind of feel like Peter like overcame the Dark Knight of the Soul before the Dark Knight of the Soul, because like he had to be Spider-Man,
which is fine.
And yeah.
He when he had already chosen to be Spider-Man going into that, so there wasn't anything he had to overcome once he got to Doc Ock. And which is, I think, was fine, because he had his arc, he had his story, and now he's like, I need to stop him. I need to now take responsibility for what I've allowed to happen and take care of Doc Ock, and then try to save Doc Ock. Like that's it. Like that was his. He actually tried to save him instead of killing him or anything.
Oh yeah.
He tried to reconcile with him. He took his mask off. So once again, it's like we're now seeing scenes of him intentionally taking his mask off. Well, obviously on the train he didn't intentionally do it, but this one with Doc Ock, he takes his mask off to show to Doc Ock, it's like, I'm Peter, but I'm actually Spider-Man. I've been Spider-Man all along. And so, in order to try to reach Doc Ock and overcome the mind control that's been going on and whatnot, and then of course Doc Ock finally comes to that realization that like realizes what he's doing, and then he's like, okay, I'm gonna. And Peter. So this was Peter, or Spider-Man, was willing to sacrifice himself. He's like, what do I need to do? He's like, well, we need to drown it. And so he turns and he's gonna go do it. Without even thinking, Peter's like, I'm probably gonna die, but I'm gonna sacrifice myself. So we see his hero moment.
Yeah.
But Doc Ock's like, no, I need to do it, and he goes and takes him down.
Yeah, no, that was good.
Solid moment.
Yeah.
And then Mary Jane's about to die when the thing falls on him, and he just should have let it happen, but didn't. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So he goes and saves Mary Jane, and they have that moment. Oh, because that's the first time Mary Jane sees him without his mask.
Yeah.
And they have that moment together, which I thought was actually pretty good moment. For the most part.
No, it's a good way, like, for her to find out.
Yes, it was.
So to get into what I didn't,
Spider-Man, he is Toby. Yeah.
To get into what I didn't like
Peter.
at the very end is he like made the decision like that, which is what the decision he made in the first movie was, that like, I can't be with you because I'm Spider-Man. It's too dangerous for you, and that's kind of like a lot of what he was struggling with even in this movie. But then she says, "Can't you let me make my own decisions?" And then she says, "Aren't you going to say something?" And he says, "Thank you." Then she becomes his girlfriend, and it doesn't make any sense because there's 2 movies about why it won't work, and then all she has to say is,
and then the
"Can't
third
you let me
movie
make my own decisions?"
The third movie makes it clear that it doesn't work.
Yeah. And so it's he like let go of like everything he believed in and believed that
kind of. I don't know. I might disagree a little bit because and this is one thing I'm trying to work through with this movie is I think his arc and his story is not necessarily he can only be Spider-Man. It's he can be both, but do so selflessly. Like he isn't just Peter Parker for his own selfish reasons because he wants to have a normal life and not take responsibility, but he needs to, as Peter, take responsibility and be the hero.
Yeah.
And I think that them ending up together in the end was, of course, I mean, it's a love story.
Right. I just think
both movies are,
and I think where this movie failed is it didn't set that up well enough, and I don't think they did it well enough to show how he can be Peter and Spider-Man. They just didn't show how that can work, and I get like that's what they're going for, and that's what they wanted to end with, is that he can be Peter and he can be Spider-Man together.
Yeah, but it just wasn't set up well. I agree.
It didn't flow into that very well, and I just didn't think that really worked.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Okay. Did you have anything else with this story? We should probably finish the story up.
I don't think so.
Get into some technical stuff.
I say that's about it for the story.
You want to elaborate more on why you just didn't like Mary Jane?
Not necessarily. I just feel like she was
annoying. It's pretty obvious. Yeah, just watch the movie.
I don't know.
Every time she talks, it's just annoying.
Her her lines and her dialogue. Like, I think I cringed the most when that scene where she's running in her wedding dress, and then she shows up at his apartment, and then everything she says, I was just like, this is really dumb.
Well, that's when she says all that stuff that I was talking about.
Okay, so that's probably why. Yeah. And it's like, okay, whatever. And I don't know, just the whole thing where she's like, she has this fiance, and she's in love with him, and then the whole thing where she like kisses him upside down. It's like, okay, that's weird.
And
it's like, I know, like, we know why you're like, I get like she's
they
trying
got engaged right after they met too. Like they literally just met, and they're
there might have been
a little bit of time.
There was
maybe.
Some time. Yeah. Well, because when she first told Peter about him, she said it might be more than that. Like, I met someone, it might be more. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
It might have been a little time, but
I did catch that. So yeah.
I don't know. It was she's kind of a flat character as well. Like I feel like she just has like one expression all the time.
Yeah,
and she just didn't have a whole lot of character. I don't know if it's just Kirsten Dunst or what, but. Yeah. Because I can tell there's glimpses where like they're trying to do the Mary Jane character from the comics, and I just don't know if it's executed very well. So, yeah, I don't know.
I think he had better chemistry with Betty. He should have ended up with her. Like they had, I think, one line together, and it was.
I think so.
It actually had good chemistry,
right?
Better than all the other scenes with Mary Jane.
Yeah, pretty much. Or even the guy that, or his landlord's daughter.
Oh yeah,
he probably has better chemistry with her.
Yeah, for sure.
And like the third movie explores that whole idea later on, like can he be Spider-Man and Peter, and can he have the girl, and so forth.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I was mostly okay with it in this one. It's just I didn't like Mary Jane, and you're right, they didn't set it up very well, but
Yeah,
that's what it is. So technical aspects, CGI I think was solid for 2004. Like
oh my gosh,
I don't really
this had
have
some
any
of the best
I don't have any
CGI.
complaints.
Yeah, I love
Like
that
I think it was
scene.
like the scene in the fire scene in the, when the house is burning, the apartment's burning down. It looked like a little jarring, but other than that, like the actual Doc Ock and Spider-Man fights, I think were pretty solid.
Yeah,
and
I love the scene when he's flying at night as Spider-Man, and it's the scene where he loses his webs, and that it's that CGI flying scene was just so incredible. Good.
Yeah.
One of my struggles was dialogue. A lot of really cringy dialogue.
Yes,
like a lot. Not even just Kirsten Dunst. It was a lot of Tobey Maguire's, and
I feel
even some of Doc Ock's was. I think Doc Ock, the actor, is a really good actor, and he played it off well. Like he managed the bad dialogue well, and I noticed like he would say some things like really fast, and I'd listen to that line and be like, that line was a really dumb line. I see why he said it as fast as he did. Like, because you don't really catch it unless you're really listening, or if you have subtitles or something. I don't use subtitles, but if you listen to some of the things he says, they're really dumb. And I actually mentioned one of those lines of, it was when he had Mary Jane, and she's like, "Why am I here?" And that line that he says it really fast. And I was like, I see why he said that fast, because that is the dumbest thing, and he knew how dumb that was.
Yeah.
So I think he handled the bad dialogue really well.
Okay.
As to Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst did not.
But you want to know something? I think we're going to experience this a lot now as we're thinking about these movies more critically. I think most superhero movies are going to just have really bad dialogue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also early 2000s. I get like that. The early 2000s superhero movies just have that sort of, I don't know, atmosphere.
Well, I think early MCU, like actual MCU, like Iron Man and getting into some of those are a lot better.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I don't know. Like I remember the first Spider-Man movie as well. Like it had some pretty cringy dialogue that I had issues with. I had less of an issue with the dialogue in this one than I did with that one. So this one has a leg up.
I know the third one is way worse than this one.
One's pretty bad. The third one's pretty bad in a lot of ways.
So bad.
I even we'll wait until we get to that one. So, anyways,
it's not our last movie, but it's the one before the last for this season.
Got it.
So
score,
have to wait a few movies.
Was really good.
Yeah, we can.
Didn't have any complaints about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, music score. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, not rating. Score, like the music score.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the music score. Yeah. I don't know. I thought a few times it was kind of harsh. Was trying to push the scenes to be a little more emotional.
Harsh. Okay, so this is actually one thing. So Sam Raimi is like known as a horror director. Like he directs a lot of horror movies. So I liked a lot of the scenes in this movie that had more of that kind of little bit of horror vibe, like the scene when Doc Ock is being
I love that
operated on.
No, that's not really what I meant. I meant like they were very, like the music was trying to carry some of the emotions in some of the scenes because it wasn't there in the writing.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. But like there was a couple of scenes where like with Doc Ock that like you could tell it's like this is Sam Raimi. And he loves horror.
There's the one scene that always terrified me as a kid.
Yeah. And
that was definitely a horror.
Yeah, and there's like a couple of little jump scares as well with Doc Ock. It was fun.
Yeah.
I thought it was well done. I mean, whether or not it really fit the tone of the movie, I'm not so sure, but it was. Yeah, no, is what it was. So, anyways, What do you? Anything else? I think that's probably it.
No,
We've
I've
over
gotten everything
discussed
out.
this movie. So let's go ahead and
Yeah.
move on to ranking this one. I might do something that I
Never thought you would
never
do.
thought I would do, but I don't know. Like, is this better than Spider-Man 1? Because Spider-Man 1 is an 8.4. It's our number
No.
one movie.
Spider-Man 1 has always been better than this one.
Always for you, like,
Yeah.
because that's not the case for me. Like, I've always considered this one to be better. I feel like this one did a little bit more with Spider-Man's character. This one's lacking in the villain in some sense, like as like a
Right.
comic book villain. I think Doc Ock's great and was well handled, but so was Green Goblin. Green Goblin was probably better for the most part. So, I had less issues with the first movie as far as plot and story.
Yeah.
So
and even the technical aspects, giving the time difference, like that movie had great visuals too. And I just think Green Goblin was always just a way better villain. And a lot of the issues I have with this one were the same with the other one, except this one, now that we've unpacked it, has some story issues. And so now, like, I really do believe that the first one is better.
This is so hard. You have no idea.
It's wrecking your world.
But because I don't know, because like there was a lot of, I like what they did for Peter's story in this one.
I feel like looking at the Spider-Man review, like what we gave it, is affecting you. So just
what do you
think of this movie as it is. What would you give it as a movie?
Okay, you're fair. That's fair.
Because that's how we need to be doing it.
I know.
As a movie, I don't think I would give this above an 8.4. Like, I just don't.
See,
like, I just think about this movie. I think it's an 8. Yeah. Like,
so before I watched this movie, I literally said, I may give this a 10 out of 10 as a superhero movie, and like maybe a 9, like 0.5 or something as a superhero movie. Like I was set on that. Like that's what I'm doing. Now I'm like, no, I can't. It's
like
not
if you
that,
just think about it as it
good.
is as a movie. Like, where does it stand? Don't even look at the other list.
It's a 7.8. Okay, I said it. You're probably gonna give it a lower score, aren't you?
I think I'm good with 7.8. I was actually leaning. I mean, I said
what
8.
Were you gonna say?
That's not really what I meant. But
you were gonna say 8.
No. When I just think about it, I think 7.5. I think it's a 7.5 movie.
So you wanna
just being as it is
7.7 or 7.6?
I can do 7.7. I'll lean up towards you because I think I'm being a little harsh on it.
Okay. Wow. I can't believe that. I can't believe it. Well, you are all here to witness it.
So we say 7.7, yeah.
What?
No, that's just repeating what we gave it. 7.7.
All right. Well, there's that.
Yeah.
That's all right. I'll be able to tear apart Amazing Spider-Man 2 for you and give you have a lower score than you have, because we want to talk about plot and story. Visually, the movie's incredible, but
the
movie has problems. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, we've gone way too long. We're
getting longer.
I think this is a long every week. Well, and the reason is because we're unpacking the story a little more than we did earlier on, which is good because we're learning and we're growing and we're being able to unpack these movies a little better.
Sure.
Anyways, Tobias, let's just take us out.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so before I take us out, go and subscribe to our Patreon.
Yes.
There we're gonna immediately check to see what the IMDb rating of this was to compare. That's going to be a new thing we're going to be doing in our Patreon. We're also going to talk about the Stan Lee cameo and credit scenes we usually talk about. And then we will do a mini review. I'm going to be doing a mini review of a recent comedy that came out. So it's called Snack Shack. I talked about it in one of our movie chronicles. So if you listen to that, then you'll have heard about that. That was filmed in Nebraska City, which is just 40 minutes from where I live, so it's just kind of cool. But I do want to unpack the movie. It's a very interesting movie to unpack, and we'll do a mini review on that. Next week we've got Blade Trinity, so you can expect our review of that, of course. And then we just got a few more weeks left. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say a few. We have a handful of weeks left, but we're almost in our home stretch of season 1. It's pretty exciting. We've been very grateful to have you guys listening, and
yes,
without pushing this any further, I just want to say we review these movies because Christians are to bring to light the darkness. So go out, glorify God, watch good movies. We're out. Goodbye.
See ya.